So, as we get set for the entrance of the teams, time to welcome our two favourite furry friends, Eddie and Ellie, the Eagles. Good evening, guys. Also, a good chance to welcome our Guard of Honour. Waiting for Kent is the Hornchurch Cricket Club. Here in front of the pavilion, we've got the Harlow Street Project, the Harwich Street Project, and participants of the Super Ones Hub. And ringing the bell this evening, it's the CEO of Penathlon, Mr. Ashley Easton. All yours, Ashley.
Warm here tonight.
Time to welcome back to the Cloud County Ground our flag bearers this evening. Evening, guys. Also a chance to welcome special guests of Bentley Cricket Club, Ross Marder's mum and dad. First time visitors apparently to the Cloud County Ground. Have a great evening, folks.
So it'll be interesting to see what their attitude is when they come up against Essex at the back end of next week for the final group game. But in the meantime, Essex have got to get the job done here tonight. The openers are out there, Adam Rossington and Dean Elgar. And we're all set to get underway. Live with us here on BBC Essex on digital radio via the BBC Sport website and the app. And you can ask your smart speaker to play Essex versus Kent. First ball of the evening then is into Rossington, and that's down the leg side. And it will be a wide to start off for Kent, who are opening up with Tom Rogers from the Graham Gooch end. And it might not be Rogers, it could be Grant Stewart actually, just looking in the distance, just watching Stewart's movement. That is definitely him. Just sweeping back with the slightly longer hair that he has.
So Adam Rossington, who's had injury problems this year.
Stewart in and bowls to Rossington on the drive, and will pick up 4 runs off the first legal delivery of the evening. Just eases into that one and waits the extra cover boundary. It goes, and Essex are 5 without loss.
But of course contributed well in that partnership with Paul Walter, who's just been named the Essex Player of the Month, I think. So I think probably rightly so. He's made a very good impression since his delayed entrance into the first team this year. Of course, he wasn't involved in the championship in the early rounds.
Stewart turns again, right arm over, one slip into Rossington, who drives down the ground this time and up to the long off fence for 4 runs. Minimum of effort, almost the maximum of outcome for Rossington. 9 without loss.
Yeah, it's 2 very comfortable looking strokes. Kent, of course, have had success on this ground already this season in the competition, playing Middlesex, and from one very comfortable. I think it's going to be a bit tougher for them this evening, mind you.
Yeah, Middlesex playing here next week once again. They come up against Gloucestershire. So Steele's been driven for consecutive boundaries by Rossington. His inner balls, that's slightly pulling back his length there, but Rossington just drops it into the offside and scampers through and picks up a single, and the score moves to 10 without loss here on BBC Essex.
Yeah, very nice first over so far. Interesting, Essex going in with 2 spinners, so obviously they'll feel that seems the way to go, and very good to see Sam Cook in the team, and Ethan Bosch as well, getting an outing in the T20.
Yeah, 3 changes from the game. They lost last Sunday at Glamorgan. Stewart comes into Elgar, and Elgar drives away, but it's cut off by the man at square cover, and there'll be no run there. Yeah, disappointing defeat on the road down there in South Wales. What we'd seen, Glamorgan are a more than useful outfit on that dramatic evening here.
Yeah.
And when Essex squeaked home thanks to that handy last wicket stand between Snater and Benkenstein, and Glamorgan virtually had the game in their hand. Stewart in again and bowls to Elgar, and Elgar works that one up to mid-off and sets off, gets halfway down and is sent back by Rossington, and there'll be no run there.
There were shades of the reverse fixture, weren't there, Glenn, about what happened on Sunday. We saw the class of Ingram and Cook, this time Labuschagne contributing with the bat as well, and then as was with the game here, Essex looking comfortable before Crane and Labuschagne with the ball suddenly started to cause problems, and the only difference was there was no final flourish from Benkenstein and Snater.
Stewart is in, bowls to Elgar, and Elgar tickles that one down towards the long leg boundary, but Fielder I think may get round there and cut it off, and indeed he has, and he saved 1 run there with his diving effort under the lip of the Tom Pearce stand. Tawanda Miyeye came herring round from deep backward square and cuts the ball off down at long leg. He's helped out down there by Matt Parkinson as well. They pick up 3 runs, so it's a profitable first over for Essex. Lost the toss here, put in by Kent, and Essex at 13 without loss.
350s for Dean Elgar. He's been very consistent, averaging 34.5, strike rate of 138, so that's pretty good. For someone who's not known as a T20 player, I think it generally took Essex supporters by surprise when he was first choice in the T20. Of course, some injuries around, but he's more than justified that. And of course, I suppose the proof in the pudding, if you like, would be whether whether Essex can actually get out of the group. But I would say that they'll be pretty pleased with how that has worked out. Now, Tom Rogers, who is coming in, long approach, right arm, medium fast bowls, and that's with an angle back play very nicely down for a single down to third man by Elgar to bring Rossington back on to strike. 14 for no wicket.
And of course, with Essex, if they can get through the quarterfinals, they would have Jordan Cox back then as well. With respect to those who are filling in, who have been included in the team this evening, you don't leave Jordan Cox out of your side, the form he's been in, so he'll have had time to recover from having his appendix removed, which happened dramatically on the first evening of that game at the Oval against Surrey in the Championship.
So here's Rogers again up to the wicket, bowls and just play defensively up into the offside, and there is no run. So Rogers bowling from what we still sometimes call the river end, because it's better known as that. And of course we've now got the Sir Arthur Cook end, which is the new Graham Gooch end, the Hayes Close end, and we sometimes like just to remind people which is which, because it just gives a bit of a visual image of the ground. It's pretty full. I'm just looking around. It's filled up in the last 15 minutes before the game started. It felt like it wasn't a Friday night, put it that way, about half an hour ago, but it's a bit filler now, as this is played by Rossington. It's a good delivery and just played straight up to Joey Epperson at mid-wicket, and there is no run. So disappointment for Kent. They've had a rough old season. I suppose the one highlight was that staggering victory over Lancashire, which probably underlined what a poor start Lancashire made. Of course, they were very much not themselves when they played here in the Championship in April. You don't see a Lancashire side rolled over as easily as that. Bit of a false dawn though for Kent in the Championship, and they've not had the usual run that they seem to be able to put together in the T20 in this particular campaign. Got 5-7-1 on the offside, and Rossington gets one on his pads, and he flicks it down towards fine leg and gets a single. And I wonder if that might have been heading down the leg side if he hadn't actually made any contact with it. He might have actually not got as much as he could have done from that ball. Just a single down to fine leg, and it's 15 for no wicket, and it's a good over this from Tom Rogers.
Yeah, it's a good comeback, isn't it, after Stewart has been struck for a couple of boundaries and bowled wide as well in that first over. So Rogers just trying to rein things back in the power play. Don't forget, 6 overs in the power play. You can only have 2 fielders out.
30-year-old Australian up to the wicket, bowls, and there's a appeal for LBW here. Good shout as Elgar was playing across his pad, trying to work it away into the onside, but it has been a good over, and certainly it's just what Kent wanted after that fairly loose first over was sent down. He played at Cheltenham against Gloucestershire, and played in the rain-affected game at the Oval against Surrey. Yet to take a wicket yet. That's rather surprisingly evidence of what we've seen in his first over, which has been pretty impressive.
Gloucestershire have lost a third wicket as well, 52 for 3, chasing 182 to beat Middlesex.
Here is Rogers again, and on the brisk side of medium fast, and that's a pull without timing by Elgar for a single out towards mid-wicket, but whereas the first over belonged to Essex, I think we'll say that one very much to Kent, because the scoring shots that there were have no great vigour about them. Essex in the end quite happy to see that over out. 16 for no wicket. Essex sent in 2 overs have been bowled, and there's a little bit of higher cloud around, but it's also some quite threatening cloud above the ground. But I think the forecast is okay, Glenn, at least for the time we're on the field this evening.
Nathan Gilchrist to replace Grant Stewart at the Graham Gooch end, formerly the Hayes Close end. Yeah, people still coming in and taking their seats here as well, Nick. Unlike last night down at Hove, Sussex against Hampshire, where for obvious reasons, with a certain European Championship semi-final on, the crowd was small down there last night. As here is Gilchrist pulled around the corner by Elgar, but the man on the edge of the circle, Parkinson, makes a diving stop, and there's no run there. And I was listening to it on my way home last night, listening to the commentary between 7 and 7:45 when I got home, and felt a little bit guilty turning our BBC cricket commentary colleagues Kevin James and Adrian Harms off and going indoors to watch the football. Here is Gilchrist once again, right arm over into Elgar, comes down the wicket, does Elgar, drives up to mid-off, sets off with a single where a direct hit would have had him run out, but it's well wide and they come through for the run and the score moves up to 17 without loss. But there were a few people messaging in saying, no, I'll be sticking with the cricket this evening, football's not my game. We had the game against Slovakia, the last 16 game with England. I was doing the opening day at the Oval of the Championship game, 8,000 people in that day because it was a special celebration of community and county cricket that day, and then people quickly went off to watch on the big screens around the ground and then came back. Here is Gilchrist into Rossington. Pushes that one back to the bowler and has followed through.
I mean, disappointing for Sussex because, if you look at team of the season in terms of performance, as you might expect, top of the T20 group, top of the Championship. Team of the season, expectation versus performance, without a shadow of a doubt, Sussex.
Yeah, looked a really good side here.
Yeah, and what a season they've had in Division 2, what a season they're having in this competition.
Yeah, it was a really, really good side here. Gilchrist bowls. Rossington comes down the wicket and pulls that one up to mid-on and again sets off with a single. He's well out of his ground if there's a direct hit. There are heads in hands as though the throw was close, but it's wide of the stumps and the score goes to 18 without loss.
If Essex don't qualify, I guess that's a game that many will look back on. Possibly the very first game against Gloucestershire, which Gloucestershire gets through at Essex's expense, but I think that was a bit of a shock for everyone. You won't see an Essex attack dismantled like that on this ground very often. It was a tremendous performance and they backed it up with others. Gilchrist in to the left-handed Elgar, comes down the wicket Elgar and doesn't quite time all of that. There's a sprawling diving stop at mid-off on the edge of the circle and they come through for a single once again, and it is 19 without loss here on BBC Essex in the third over of the evening. Yeah, it was Harrison Ward and Daniel Hughes up top who did the damage, and then James Coles came in and put back the ball handily as well, and Coles has proved himself a really good operator in this format, and as you say, they've certainly been the surprise package, Sussex, so far. As Gilchrist comes into Rossington, who just drops his hands on that one and sets off with a single. Just as a little glance up there, Rossington, to check that Elgar was coming through, and he was, and that's the end of the over. Relatively quiet one, 19 without loss of the score, as the skies do just darken a little bit more. Yeah, just sort of keeping an eye up with this. Certainly the forecast I saw looked reasonably set fair, but it's a bit of humidity around, isn't there? And you just wouldn't be surprised if there's a shower. There is rain forecast overnight, and the forecast for Sunday's game here looks okay, so good. I think good thing all round. That's starting at 2:30 and not too much later than that. But Surrey coming, and that will be a big occasion. So Essex, it's very much on a knife edge. I think many were confident of Essex qualifying until obviously just 1 point from the last two games. Here's Rogers again, bowls to Rossington. He gets hold of that and pulls it away to the square leg boundary for 4. Just straight in their direction a little bit, and Rossington seized on it and dispatched it, and that's a good blow for Essex because they've been two pretty good overs back to back there by Kent, and it's gone to 24 for no wickets, and we're just into the 4.
Yeah, we were chatting last night, weren't we, on BBC Essex, and I did say to you, I actually don't think a rain-off against Somerset was all that bad, given how strong Somerset are, but that was fine, but then they backed it up, unfortunately, with a defeat by Glamorgan.
Rogers up to the wicket bowls, and that's an attempted scoop shot, and it probably gone over the top of the leg stump. Rossington did back away outside his off stump, so he's not going to get wide there, but goes to prod the pitch. Yes, our esteemed colleague Anthony Gibson thought he didn't quite go with my view last Friday because he thought that he fancied Somerset to win the game, but of course he got a bit of a shock with what happened against Gloucestershire a couple of days later, and it just shows how one of the less fancied teams can put a run together, and it also shows, I think, the strength in depth in the South Group. Here's Rogers again, 5-saving one on the off side, and the sun is shining, and that's a bit of lift there, and played with an angle back by Rossington down to short third man for a single. Nice delivery. Would have been a useful one that in first class match, and in the end he played that pretty well. Rossington, no slips to worry about on this occasion, but down to short third man, but that would have been awkward to do it with a ring of slips and with a gully perhaps in a championship game. It's quite a handful, Rogers.
He's swift, isn't he, Tom Rogers? He's certainly working up a little bit of pace here, and he just surprised Rossington with that one that he managed to get to lift. Yeah, but just back to Gloucestershire, I mean, a lot of it is down to David Payne and the way he's bowled.
Yes, and here's Rogers again, that's driven and slammed away between cover and mid off the 4. Good shot. Got a lot of bat on that, did Dean Elgar. And say he's done a pretty good job. As a sort of surprise in the blast side, but he's put the bad balls away, and that one just a bit over pitched, and he's dispatched it. And it's 29 for no wicket in the 4th. Of course, the game they didn't win, Gloucestershire, they tied against Surrey in a game that Surrey really should have won. So again, that just underlines how well they've done. But it's a lot of quality. I think it was an all-South finals day last year, wasn't it? I wouldn't be surprised if at least 3 come from the South group this time, as that's a good delivery. It's up in the block hole, attempted Yorker and dug out by Elgar, and back on the bounce to Rogers. 29 for no wicket in the 4th over. West Indies 79 for 6, 171 behind at stumps on day 2 of the test match at Lord's, and I was thinking that's another Saturday of a Lord's test to be lost, and at one stage I was thinking it's another Friday of a Lord's test. Wow. It would have been quite something when test matches usually start on a Thursday. But Rogers up to the wicket again, and this is attempted drive, good delivery actually, because Elgar was coming down the pitch for it. He wasn't quite there for the shot, and in the end could only just sort of push it back without too much pace back to the bowler, who bowled a couple of less effective deliveries, but put in some good ones as well there. 29 for no wicket, 4 overs gone, 17 to Rossington, and 11 on the board to Elgar. Yes, you feel when you're in a minority, you prefer Penny Lane to Strawberry Fields forever, whatever minority you want to be in. I've been sceptical about the future of 5-day tests for a while. When you look at the stats of a number of games are settled within 4 days, better drainage, lots and lots of factors, which I think people are going to have to think long and hard about it.
Stewart is back on from the Graham Gooch end. It is immediately whisked away to deep mid-wicket, but there'll only be a single there for Rossington. 30 without loss is the score. Yeah, Brian Jeeves, one of the Essex newspaper reporters, is in the box with us this evening, and he's got tickets for tomorrow. And I said, he said, really, day 3 of a test, England against Wales, was that optimistic? And elusive get to see James Anderson leave a cricket.